You're standing in the driveway with a sharp pain in your back, trying to lift a box that is clearly too heavy. Someone reaches for the other side. Let me help you. And before you even think about it, you smile and say, No, I'm good. I've got it. Your arms are shaking. Your back hurts. But somehow accepting help feels more uncomfortable than carrying the weight. The same thing happens when you're sick. Someone texts, Do you need anything? You type, No, I'm fine. You may be exhausted, overwhelmed, or quietly scared, but your first instinct is not relief. It's embarrassment. People around you might call this independence, or stubbornness, pride, maybe even a need for control. And perhaps you describe it with a simple sentence. I just don't want to be a burden. But the most revealing question is not whether you can handle things alone. It's what you imagine would happen if you couldn't. For many people born between 1965 and 1980, self-reliance became more than a useful skill. It became a way of moving through the world. Not everyone from this generation had the same childhood, family, culture, or responsibilities. But many grew up in environments where being tough, practical, and low maintenance was quietly rewarded. You figured things out. You didn't complain too much. You dealt with the problem before anyone had to ask what was wrong. Maybe you walked home from school alone. Maybe you looked after younger siblings. Maybe the adults around you were working, stressed, distracted, or dealing with problems you were too young to understand. You learned to make your own food, solve your own conflicts, keep yourself occupied, read the room, and sometimes you learned something even more important. There was already enough going on, so you tried not to add to it. This does not mean you were unloved. It does not mean every independent adult is secretly wounded. Sometimes self-reliance develops because it works. When you repeatedly solve problems, you build what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you can take action and influence what happens next. In ordinary language, you learn, I can handle this. That belief can create real confidence. You might enjoy learning how to repair something instead of calling someone. You may prefer managing your own finances, planning your own trips, or finding a solution before asking for advice. There is satisfaction in being capable. There is dignity in knowing you can depend on yourself. And that kind of autonomy is not a problem. The problem begins when independence stops being one option and becomes the only option you can emotionally tolerate. Healthy autonomy says, I can do this myself, but I can accept support when I need it. Defensive independence says, I must do this myself because needing someone feels dangerous. From the outside, those two people may look exactly the same. Both refuse the offer. Both say, I've got it. Both keep moving. But internally, one person is making a preference. The other is obeying a rule. That rule may have formed years ago when having needs seemed to create tension. Imagine a child who notices that a parent is already overwhelmed. The child has a bad day at school. Something happened. They want comfort. But when they begin to explain, the parent looks exhausted. Maybe the parent becomes impatient. Maybe they say, not now. Maybe they offer practical advice but no emotional space. So the child decides not to bring it up again. Not because the problem disappeared, but because silence feels safer. Over time, the child becomes easy to take care of. They don't ask for much. They solve things alone. Adults may praise them for being mature, and the praise feels good. But beneath that maturity, a quiet association can form. When I need less, relationships feel more stable. When I have a problem, I create pressure. When I am useful, I am easier to love. Years later, that child may become the adult everyone calls during a crisis. You know how to fix things, organize things, drive someone to the airport, cover a shift, pay the bill, calm everyone down. You are comfortable being the person who carries the weight, but when the roles reverse, something inside you tightens. You may not know how to remain connected to someone when you are not providing a solution. Being useful feels safe because usefulness gives you a role. It gives you a reason to be there. But simply being cared for, without earning it, fixing anything, or paying it back, can feel strangely exposed. That is why receiving help may not register as love. It may register as debt. Someone brings you groceries and you immediately think about how to repay them. Someone rearranges their schedule for you and you apologize 5 times. Someone takes care of a task, and instead of resting, you search for another way to prove you are still contributing. The urgency to repay is not always generosity. Sometimes it is an attempt to escape the vulnerable position of owing someone something. Because accepting help requires more than receiving a favor, it requires trust. You have to trust that the person will not use your need against you later. You have to trust that they will not keep score. You have to trust that seeing you struggle will not change how they see you. And you have to tolerate losing a little control. For someone who has relied on self-sufficiency for decades, that can feel more threatening than the original problem. This is why two people can refuse the same offer for completely different reasons. One person says no because they genuinely want to try first. If it becomes too difficult, they can change their mind. The other says no because changing their mind feels humiliating. One person enjoys independence. The other needs independence to feel emotionally safe. The difference is not whether you can do things alone. The difference is whether you remain free when you cannot. Think about the last time you truly needed someone. What appeared first, relief or shame? Did you feel grateful or did you feel guilty for taking up someone's time? Did you become irritated because you were no longer in control? Did you rush to prove that the difficulty was temporary? Did you worry that the person helping you would now see you as weak, incapable, or demanding? Those reactions may reveal more than the simple habit of being independent. They can reveal the hidden condition beneath your self-worth. I am acceptable as long as I am functioning. I deserve space as long as I am useful. I can be loved as long as I do not require too much. And this becomes especially painful when life changes. You get older, you become sick, you lose a job. Your body can no longer do what it once did. You face a problem that effort alone cannot solve. Suddenly, the identity built around being the provider, the fixer, or the strong one begins to feel unstable. The deepest fear may not be, I don't want to bother anyone. It may be, who am I if I'm no longer the one holding everything together? Or even, would they still choose me if I had nothing useful to offer? That is the question hidden beneath many automatic refusals. And it does not mean your competence is fake. Your strength is real. Your ability to survive, adapt, and solve problems probably carried you through situations that required exactly those qualities. But a strategy can save you in one stage of life and limit you in another. What once protected you from disappointment can later prevent you from experiencing reliable care. What once gave you control can eventually leave you isolated. So the goal is not to become helpless. It is not to abandon your independence or start depending on everyone. It is to recover the ability to choose. The next time someone offers help, notice the first reaction in your body before you answer. Do you tense up? Do you prepare an apology? Do you immediately calculate how to repay them? You do not have to force yourself into a dramatic act of vulnerability. You might simply accept the ride. Tell someone you are not doing well. Let another person handle one small task. Ask for support before the situation becomes unbearable. Then observe what happens. Not only in the relationship, but inside you. Because needing help is not the opposite of strength. Sometimes strength is carrying the box, and sometimes strength is allowing another person to take the other side. The box in the driveway was never just a box, it was the weight of an identity built around never needing to be carried. But mature relationships are not made of two people proving they need nothing. They are made of people who can move between supporting and being supported without believing that either position makes them less valuable. You do not stop being independent when you receive care. You discover whether your independence is still a freedom or whether it has become a silent obligation. So ask yourself, when someone takes care of you, does it feel like love? Or does it feel like debt? Because you were never supposed to earn your place in someone's life by becoming impossible to help. If this felt familiar, share your experience in the comments and subscribe for more reflections on the patterns that quietly shape who we become.